Imagine waking up tomorrow and looking out at the ocean, but something is wrong. There are no waves, no movement, no sound of water crashing against the shore. Instead, stretching all the way to the horizon, there is nothing but solid ice. Every ocean on Earth has frozen. The Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, even the waters surrounding Antarctica have become a vast frozen landscape. At first, people might think it is some kind of natural disaster, but scientists quickly discover something far more terrifying. This isn't happening in one place. It is happening everywhere, at almost the same time, and nobody knows why. Within hours, satellites begin sending back extraordinary images. The world's oceans have become enormous sheets of ice. Ships are trapped. Ports are frozen. Coastal communities are suddenly separated from the sea they have depended on for generations. But the biggest shock comes from beneath the ice. Billions of marine organisms are trapped below the surface. Fish, plankton, coral ecosystems, and countless other forms of life are suddenly living under a gigantic frozen barrier. And then scientists notice another problem. The oceans are not just water. They are one of Earth's greatest climate regulators. For millions of years, they have absorbed and redistributed enormous amounts of heat around the planet. Now that system has been disrupted. Within days, another crisis begins. Global shipping essentially stops. Around the world, ships can no longer travel normally between continents. For modern civilization, this is a massive problem. Food, fuel, medicine, raw materials. Millions of tons of goods normally cross the oceans every day. Now the world's greatest transportation network has become an enormous frozen roadblock. Air travel can continue, trains can continue, trucks can continue, but none of them can replace the sheer scale of ocean shipping. Countries begin searching for alternative routes, and suddenly the geography of the world matters more than ever. Then something unexpected happens. The frozen oceans begin reflecting far more sunlight back into space. Normally, dark ocean water absorbs a huge amount of solar energy. Ice behaves very differently. It reflects much of that energy. So the planet begins losing heat. Temperatures fall, winter becomes longer. Storm systems change. Weather patterns that humans have relied on for centuries begin shifting. Some regions become dramatically colder. Others experience strange changes in rainfall and wind. And the effects don't remain near the coast. The entire climate system begins responding to the frozen oceans. Then humanity faces a more immediate problem. Food. Billions of people depend directly or indirectly on the ocean. Fishing communities lose their primary source of income. Seafood disappears from markets. But the consequences go much further. Changing temperatures and weather patterns begin affecting agriculture. Growing seasons shift. Some crops fail. Other regions become unexpectedly cold. Governments begin protecting food supplies. Countries restrict exports. And suddenly, something that once seemed impossible becomes a daily concern. How do you feed billions of people on a planet whose climate is changing faster than agriculture can adapt? But humans aren't the only ones suffering. Under the ice, entire marine ecosystems begin collapsing. The ocean is normally filled with microscopic organisms that form the foundation of marine food chains. Many depend on sunlight, but a thick layer of ice blocks that light. As conditions change, plankton populations begin to decline. Then the animals that depend on them begin to suffer. Fish, seabirds, marine mammals, and eventually species that depend on the ocean indirectly. The consequences spread through ecosystems around the planet. The frozen ocean may look peaceful from above, but underneath it, an ecological crisis is unfolding. Months pass. Humanity begins adapting. New transportation routes appear across frozen seas. Some communities construct settlements near the new ice-covered coastlines. Scientists study the changing atmosphere. Governments redesign supply networks. And humans prove once again that they can adapt to extraordinary conditions. But adaptation has a limit. The frozen oceans have transformed the planet's climate. Ecosystems, economy, and geography. Civilization continues, but the world people once knew is disappearing. And then scientists discover something even more unsettling. The oceans may not remain frozen forever. If the original cause of the freezing disappears, sunlight and atmospheric heat could eventually begin melting the ice. But by then, Earth would be completely different. Sea levels could change dramatically. Climate systems could shift again. Ecosystems would face another enormous transformation. Humanity would have survived one of the greatest environmental changes in its history. But the question would remain, could civilization survive the next transition? Because if the ocean suddenly froze, the greatest danger might not be the ice. It might be what happens when the ice finally begins to melt.